On mute.
All right, so I am going to ask everybody, because we are recording and this will be going up on our YouTube channel, to please either remain muted or as quiet as possible so we get the best audio quality we can. There will be time for questions either after the session or in the session. I'll leave that up to Elizabeth and Ron as to when they want to open that up. So hang on to your questions. Yeah, so I will just start with introductions. I am Ryan Fleury. I'm with the Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians, and this training is part one on using JAWS to navigate Windows. Our presenters today are Elizabeth Whitaker and Ron Miller from Vispero. So I'm very pleased to have you both with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And other than that, I'm going to hand it over to Elizabeth. Away you go.
All right. Thank you so much, Ryan. We're really excited to be here to talk about navigating Windows because I think navigation, anytime you're working with an operating system that may be new to you, or maybe you've just upgraded to Windows 11, some things change, some things stay the same, but some things will change. So I think it's really important to delve into those basics of how we navigate and how we get around and how we interact with our environments. So I'm going to share my screen here in just a second and dive right in. But today we're going to be talking about the desktop, the start menu, the taskbar and system tray. And then we're going to be giving you tips along the way to help you navigate more efficiently. We're going to be giving you a lot of keyboard commands, and it's important here to specify that some will be Windows commands and some will be JAWS commands, and we'll let you know which is which. But a good way to distinguish between those two is that your Windows commands can be performed with or without any assistive technology. They don't rely on any of that. They're not screen reader dependent. They are commands that any sighted user, blind user, visually impaired user could use in these applications. So when we talk about things like your arrow keys, your tab key, things like that, those are Windows commands. There will be a few JAWS commands that we will talk about. Those typically speaking, those are going to use what we call the JAWS key, or if you have JAWS set to desktop layout, that is going to be your insert key, or if it's in laptop layout, your caps lock key. And we can do, if you would like us to add more training on JAWS and how to distinguish between the desktop and laptop and things like that, we can certainly do that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's make sure that you guys can hear everything. Share my sound so you can hear JAWS.
Top ZP toolbar parent W.
All right, can you guys hear that? Did it actually work?
Screen sharing meeting controls.
Okay, seems to.
Yeah.
Mute. Stop share.
All right, how's the volume? Do I need to bring that up or down?
Yeah, I think if you can turn the volume up a little bit, that would be
Up a
great.
little. Okay. I'm going to use a handy JAWS command here. Insert space, V for volume,
Volume.
J for JAWS,
JAWS.
and I'm going to hit my up arrow.
88%, 92%.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, I think that'll be fine.
Okay. All right. So when we navigate Windows, and I am using Windows 11, so when we navigate Windows with JAWS, we're going to predominantly use our arrow keys. We're going to use the tab key. And those are a lot of what we're going to do. We're also going to do what's called first letter navigation, which is where we're able to press the first letter of what we want to go to and navigate to the options that begin with that letter. All right, there are multiple ways to get to your desktop, but the one that I like is Windows key D, Delta. So I'm going to hold down the Windows key, press D, and then let up on both of those keys.
Folder view, list view, Google Chrome.
I'm going to slow this down just a touch.
Faster, slower.
All right, now it says folder view, list view. This just means that there are items that we can navigate through that are in a list here.
Slower.
And one of the reasons, again, there are multiple ways to get to your desktop, but one of the reasons I really like using Windows D is because if you are in another application, say Zoom, I'm going to alt tab back over to Zoom here.
Screen sharing meeting control.
And if I press Windows D,
Folder view list view.
it takes me to my desktop, but if I press it again, it's going to take me back to where I was before.
Stop share Alt plus S button.
All right, so it's kind of a way to navigate between the app that you're working in and your desktop should you need to do that. All right, so let's press Windows D, Delta, go back to our desktop.
Folder view list view Google Chrome.
Now I just have some things here on the desktop and I can navigate this with my arrow keys. I can use up and down, I can use right and left. So I'm just going to use up arrow.
Gold Wave 7 of 15. FS Reader 3.0. Belark Advisor 5. Bard Express.
And as you can hear, it's going to read the name of the shortcut. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. And it's going to give you a number. It's going to say
Bard Express 3 of 15.
3 of 15. That means it is the third of 15 shortcuts here on the desktop. Now, when we talk about shortcuts, what we mean is these are shortcuts to an app. This is for the Bard Express app here for our National Library Service here in the US. It is not the app itself. So if I remove this shortcut, I'm not removing the app. I'm just removing the shortcut. If I have a file, a shortcut to a file in my desktop, if I remove that shortcut, I'm not removing the file. I'm just removing the shortcut to that file that I have on the desktop. All right, so again, we can use our up and down arrow keys, our right and left arrow keys.
JAWS 2024. Bard Express, Adobe Acrobat.
So I'm just using my up and down arrow keys to navigate those items. And if I wanted to open one, I could just press enter on it and that application or file would open. Now, when we're on the desktop, we can tab to get to different items. And Rana is going to tell you about more of these items, but we're just going to tab here to navigate through and see what we have.
Taskbar.
So here we have the taskbar, which Ron's going to go into more detail about here in just a bit.
Start button off.
Now in Windows 11, you're going to hear a little bit of a different verbiage than you did in previous versions where it's going to say things like start button off. That is a shortcut to the start menu and it's off only because really what it means is it's not checked. If we were to press enter and check it, it would open the start menu. So that's just why it says off. It doesn't mean it's not available.
Search button off.
There's a search button where we could search for things here.
Search personal finance tips button. Task view button off. Microsoft Edge button.
So now we get down into, we have our taskbar. Again, Ron's going to talk about that as well as our system tray.
Show hidden icons button. Folder.
Now you may have some other options. You can turn some of these off. If you were using Windows 11, you may have widgets. That's something called widgets. You may have something called chat and some other things. I've turned some of those things off because since this is my work computer, I don't need those things. So we will get into next week, we're going to get into how to do that, how to go in your desktop settings and how to place shortcuts to things on your desktop, because I think that's very important too. So that's what I wanted to cover this week for the desktop. Now I'm going to move on to the start menu. Now, visually speaking, and I think this is important, even if, like for example, I'm blind, I can't see the screen, but I think this is important to know that the start menu is now in the center of the screen. So if anyone, if anyone's helping you with your computer, somebody mentioned something, just know that that does not have anything to do, it doesn't impact how you interact with that with JAWS. So we can move the start menu to the left or to the right or keep it in the center. It doesn't really matter because if you're using JAWS, you're going to be able to navigate it the same way. So the start menu also contains shortcuts to apps. We can do what's called pinning them to the start menu. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how to do that. We also have the ability to search for things. You may be familiar with using Windows Search, use it to search for files and things like that. So I can get to it from the desktop, but we're not going to do that. We're going to press the Windows key. Let's try that again.
PC cursor.
Hang on just a second.
Adobe Acrobat.
Okay,
Search box edit.
there we go. All right, so the first thing we hear is search box edit. Now this brings up the Windows search. And so we're actually in the search area. And if I wanted to say, go to Microsoft Word to work on a document, I could start typing Word
Word app. Press right to switch preview.
and it would bring it right up for me. Now what it did is it brought the option into view. We're not actually in Word. I would have to press enter to open it, or I could press down arrow and navigate through the other results. All right, I'm going to press escape and we're going to go back to the start menu here because I want to bypass the search. But I did want to show you how to use Windows search. You can also type the name of a document or part of the name of a document and you can search that way. All right, so we're going to press Windows.
Search box edit.
And it said search box edit. Now, I don't want to search. I want to go right past all of that and get to the start menu. So I'm going to press tab.
All apps checked. All apps list box.
So what we have here, we have a few sections. We have all apps. We have recommended. We have pinned. And things here are, all the icons here are arranged in columns and rows. And so it's a clean look. It's cleaner than other versions of Windows. And again, you know, this really doesn't impact how we navigate the start menu. We're going to use our tab key and our arrow keys, but let's tab through the different options here.
All apps button.
So we have
Pinned list box.
We have the pinned apps, which are apps that we have personally pinned here ourselves. Maybe there's apps that we use frequently. We're going to come back to that. So I'm going to tab.
All apps button.
Here we have a button that would, if we activate it, would take us to all apps. And that's going to show you all of your apps in alphabetical order.
Recommended list box. An introduction to Windows.
So here we have recommended. These are apps that we use, that we've used most recently. So this kind of replaces something that used to be called Timeline in previous versions of Windows, but it's going to show us the things that we've used most recently.
More button.
Here we have a more button, and we're going to explore that. We're going to explore each of these things one by one, but let's just keep tabbing.
List box. User account for Elizabeth Whitaker.
Now we have a list box here that has two items. It has a user account, which is just going to be whatever your Windows account name is. And if I right arrow,
Power 2 of 2.
we have power. So again, we're going to explore each of these things. We're going to come back to that.
User.
All right, so if we tab again,
Search box edit.
we're back to our search box. All right, so let's break this down and talk about each of these items here. I'll tab.
Pinned list box. Documents 1 of 29.
Now we hear pinned list box. Okay, so pinned just means that these are the items that we've put here. List box means that we can now use our arrow keys to navigate. And in this case, you're going to use your right and left arrow to go one item at a time. So if I'm on 1 of 29, if I press right arrow,
Microsoft Edge 2 of 29. Word 3 of 29.
that takes us one item at a time. If I press my up and down arrow keys, I'm going to be able to move in larger increments.
Photos 9 of 29. Disney Plus 15 of 29.
And so, you know, this is how I can navigate through these items.
Documents
Now,
1.
I can also use what's called first letter navigation, which is where I can press D, for example,
Disney Plus 15 of 29.
and I can navigate through all the things that start with the letter D. You can also do that on the desktop. I don't think I mentioned that, but you can also do that on the desktop. So if you're looking for something quickly and you know it's there, just press the first letter of it. It usually goes, well, depending on how things are arranged, it might go in alphabetical order, but you know, if you just keep pressing D, for example,
Documents 1 of 29. Disney Plus 15 of 29.
now those are arranged not in alphabetical order, but that's just where they are here in the start menu. All right, I'm here on Disney Plus. Now I don't use this. Maybe I don't need it here anymore. So I can invoke the context menu, which is something that I encourage you to try when you're in different apps and when you're doing different things on your computer. If you're wondering how to get to certain options, if you're wondering, you know, how do I delete this shortcut, or how do I go in here and see if I can view more options for this feature, whatever it is that you're working with, try your Shift F10 or the applications key. That is the equivalent of a right mouse click. So let's do that now here on Disney Plus and see what we get.
Context menu. Unpin from start. 2 of 6.
All right, so immediately it places it on the second of 6 items here in a menu, which is unpin from start. Now let's go ahead and explore what the others are. I'm going to up arrow to the first one.
Move to front. 1 of 6.
I could actually move this to front. So if I'm on the very last item that I have pinned here in the start menu, I could move it all the way to the top very quickly. I don't want to do that, so I'll down arrow.
Unpin from start. 2 of 6. U.
This is actually what I'm going to do here in a minute. I'm going to keep going down though.
Run as administrator. 3 of 6. Pin to taskbar. 4 of 6.
Here we could pin it to our taskbar.
App settings. 5 of 6.
Go into settings for this app,
Uninstall. 6 of 6.
or we could uninstall it right from here. All right, let's go up to
App pin. Run. Unpin from run as unpin from start. 2 of 6.
unpin from start. And here I'm going to press the enter key. This is the Windows command, of course, enter key.
Item unpinned. Leaving menus. All apps button.
All right, and what it did is it unpinned it. It let us know that, and it places us on the all apps button. So if I shift tab,
Pinned list box. Microsoft To Do. 15 of 28.
now we have 15. We're on the 15th item of 28 items. So again, that's how we can remove things. I could just go in here and I could clean that up to just reflect the apps that I use frequently. All right, so pinned is the first section here in the start menu. If we tab,
All apps button.
now we have all apps button. Let's go ahead and press space here or enter.
Back but all apps.
Actually, I think we have to enter. So let's do that. Maybe not.
Back button. All apps not checked. Zoomed out all apps list box. Number 2.
Okay, I think you can do either. What happened was it was in focus, but it wasn't being read by JAWS for some reason. So what I did was I tabbed and then I shift tabbed. You can also sometimes just use caps lock tab or insert tab to read the current control to you.
Number 2 of 29.
And what it does here, so it places, now we have a list of all the apps that are on my computer, and it puts them in alphabetical order, and it categorizes them according to the letter, or in this case, number. So when you have a list of folders or files or apps, in this case, any of them that begin with a number are going to be first. So it has a number sign here, and it's going to say 1 of 1.
Number 2 of 29. D. Number 2 of 29.
Okay, it actually didn't say that. It said it for me earlier, but so if we down arrow,
D. 6 of 29. Num A. 3 of 20.
oh, I see. I think I've expanded something here.
Search box edit.
Hang on.
Back button.
Let's just start over
Adobe.
here. I'm going to go back
Adobe.
to
Search box edit.
the start menu.
All apps button.
All right.
All apps checked. All apps list box. Number 3D viewer. 1 of 1.
Okay, here we go. Now that's somehow I had expanded or collapsed something. And I think it was just showing me the actual letters A, B, C, D, so I could go to the one I wanted. But okay, so we have one app here that starts with a number called 3D viewer. We down arrow.
A. 2 of 21. Access. 1 of 5.
Now we have 5 apps that start with the letter A.
Accessibility folder. Adobe Acrobat. 3 of 5. Amazon folder collapsed.
So here, whenever it says we have folders that say collapsed, we are going to expand them with our right arrow or collapse them with our left arrow. We're going to get more into this when we talk about File Explorer next week. You can use first letter navigation here. So I'm going to try G.
Game bar. 1 of 6. Get help. 2 of game bar.
Now, one thing that what it does of it, it just brings you to the G. So if I press G again, it doesn't go to the next one.
Get help. Get started. Global VPN client. Gold Wave folder.
I'm looking for Google Chrome.
Google Chrome. 6 of 6.
All right. So here I am on Google Chrome. Let's say that I want to go to all apps and I want to find Google Chrome and I want to place this browser. I want to pin it to my start menu. I'm going to once again invoke that context menu, either Shift F10 or the applications key.
Context menu. Pin to start. 1 of 4.
And that is our very first option, pin to start. Now let's see what else we have here. I'm going to down arrow.
More sub menu. 2 of 4. M.
Oh, that's more sub menu. So if we right arrow to expand that.
Pin to taskbar. 1 of 3. Run as administrator. Open file location.
So we get some options here for pinning to the taskbar, running as administrator. Open file location. That takes you to the actual folder where that file is or that app is located.
More sub menu. Uninstall. 3.
All right, so if I left arrow, that collapses that more submenu. And then we just have a couple of options here that are uninstall.
Most visited group, audiobooks matching keywords, freedom science, audio uninstall, more sub,
And now we have some other options here that it gives us.
more sub,
Let's go back up,
pin to start, 1 of 4, P.
pin to start. Now I know I'm kind of going through a lot of options here. Number one, I'm going to supply you all with a document that goes through these tasks. And number two, we are going to talk more about this next week. So, all right, so it lands us on pin to start. So we hit enter.
Google Chrome, item pinned, leaving menus.
And it tells us that it's pinned. So now I'm going to escape a few times and get out of the start menu. And let's go back and let's look at our pinned items.
Search box. Google Chrome, 6 of 6. All apps button, pinned list box, documents, 1 of 29.
So now we have 29 things again. So if we go to the bottom here,
Calendars, box, 13 of 20. Instagram, Paint, 25 of 29. File Explorer, Movies and TV, Bard Express, Google Chrome, 29 of 29.
and there we have Google Chrome.
Clock,
And again,
Google Chrome.
I could just go there to my pinned area and I could press G for Google Chrome. All right, just real quick, we're going to go through some of the other things here in the start menu. We're going to tab again.
All apps button.
We've already been to all apps.
Recommended list box, an introduction to Windows 11 and JAWS resource file docs.
So here are the files that I've recently accessed and apps that I've recently accessed, and they are in the recommended box. Again, we can navigate these with our arrow keys.
File manager and
up and down, right and left.
Celebrating Braille event.
All right, so we're going to tab again.
More button.
Let's space on the more button.
Recommended list box, back button. List box, user account for Elizabeth Whitaker.
So what that does
Back button.
is it opens up a larger list of recommended items here.
More button. List box.
And so what you're going to see initially is a list of the most recent items you've accessed, but it's going to be kind of a shorter list. If you go to more, it's going to expand it. Now we get to this box here. We get to this list box where we have two items. We have our account name.
Power, 2 of 2.
And power. Let's go ahead and go back to the account name.
User account for Elizabeth Whitaker.
And I'll space here.
Change account settings, 1 of 4.
And it brings up some options where we can change the account settings.
Lock, 2 of 4. L.
Lock.
Sign out, 3 of 4. Switch user, 4 of 4.
Sign out or switch user. I don't want to do any of those things, so I'm going to press escape.
User account for.
And if we go over here to power.
Power, 2 of 2.
And we space.
Sign in options, 1 of 4.
We're going to have some options here.
Sleep, sign in options, 1 of 4. S.
Sign in, sleep.
Sleep, shut down, 3 of 4. S.
Shut down.
Restart, 4.
And restart. So you may not ever use those from the start menu, but just know that they're there.
Leaving menus.
And I can press escape to leave those menus.
Search box edit.
And then we're back to search. And so that essentially is how we navigate the start menu. That's how you pin and unpin items. And again, we'll do more of that next week when we talk about the desktop, but I did want to show you how that worked because it is a little bit different than what you may be accustomed to. All right, I'm going to go back over here.
Screen sharing meeting.
And unshare my screen. And before I hand it over to Ron here to talk about the taskbar and some other topics, are there any questions about the desktop or the start menu?
Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
Okay. I'm already confused.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Because things seem to be in more than one place. You know, you seem to have the same things on the desktop or the start menu. And there seemed to be, you went looking for Chrome that was appeared to already be on the start menu. Well, that's where you found it, but then you pinned it to the start menus. So I don't understand why there are so many places and so many options. I think that's what confuses us folks that really struggle with these concepts. So I don't even know what the difference between the desktop and the start menu and the taskbar and why you would use, what's their function. So it would be helpful perhaps to understand what's the function of each of these things, whatever they are. And I remember years ago that they were described, one was in the bottom left-hand corner, one was in the top right-hand corner. and you could go around from one to the other. I remember doing that years and years ago, and that really helped to kind of orient me to where these things were and what you use them for. So I don't want to hold up the session, but as I say, I'm already feeling a little lost.
Okay. And you know what? That makes a lot of sense what you're saying as far as how do you know what to use and when. They are in different locations, but I think where they are isn't so much important as what they do. So to kind of clear up some of the confusion here, really it doesn't matter which one you use. So if you like the desktop and you want to put all your shortcuts to the apps that you use all the time on your desktop, that is absolutely fine. You can do that. If you want to see a list of all your apps, you can go to your start menu and tab to all apps and press space there, and you will see a list of all your applications. You can pin those to the pinned area in your start menu, but again, if you prefer to use your desktop, that is fine. That might, be easier. So it's more of personal preference.
Can you pin them to your search? I mean, would search get you there too?
Search will get you there. Now, I will tell you that with more recent versions of Windows, search, it will get you there, but what it also does is it gives you a lot of other items, things like if you search for, let's say, Excel, it'll give you Excel and you can open it, but it might also give you some web content pertaining to Excel. So I like to show people the search, but I've kind of shied away from that just a little bit.
It's more general, and you put the other things more
Right.
specific to you on either your desktop or your start menu.
Yes. And I'll be honest, me personally, and I'm in no way trying to tell anyone, which to choose. I like the desktop because I know I can always press Windows D and get to my desktop and then use first letter navigation to get to where I want to go. I don't have to go into the start menu, tab here and there. It's just good to know that the items are in the start menu if you're looking for them.
Okay.
But your desktop is kind of, the whole purpose of the desktop was kind of to say, here is a space where you're going to put everything you need, just like you would if you were physically placing items on your desk and you were going to work on a project. You're going to have everything you need at arm's reach. And that's kind of the concept there behind the desktop.
That helps. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Peg.
Yeah, and actually, I was just thinking it might be helpful just to clarify the start menu. The name of that could be misleading because it might make people think, oh, that's where you put your programs so that they will automatically start when you turn on the computer, but that's not the case, right?
Right, that is correct.
So it's a bit misleading, that kind of terminology there, start menu. Oh, okay, that's where they start from. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, because it just means, I think maybe the reasoning behind that was here's a jumping off point. You can go here to access all your apps, and it's really, you don't need to. You can have them on your desktop.
Right.
The start menu is sort of like your desk where everything is kept. And then the things you want to use, you bring out and put them on your desktop. That analogy makes sense to me.
That's a good way to look at it. I like that. Yep.
And some of us in this session here today might be still using Windows 10. I'm one of those. So the options.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I was going to actually lead with that and ask you, and we do have some training on transitioning from Windows 10 to 11. So if that is something that you're going to need in the future, we're going to be talking about that as we move through this training. But everything, for the most part, everything I said today, how to navigate your start menu, how to navigate your desktop, that's all going to apply to you in Windows 10.
Any other questions? And I think we can carry on.
All right. Well, unfortunately, I have to jump, but I will be back next week, but I'm going to hand it off to Ron, and you are in very capable hands.
Perfect. Thank you, Elizabeth.
All right. Thank you.
She makes these promises and she leaves. Okay. Wow. It's so fun to listen to her train. It's great. So, alrighty. So we're going to pick up right where she left off. And to further answer that question, because the first question, in fact, why are there so many ways to do things? I think this is just my thought. Okay, is part of it is to accommodate people who have gotten used to doing things in a certain way. So, for example, the application, that list of applications that you can get to from the start menu when you invoke all, and you see all of your applications, takes us all the way back to XP and some of the earlier operating systems, even before XP. I don't remember the command anymore. It was like Windows up arrow and then right arrow or something, and you'd end up in this whole list of programs. But that was the way to get to your programs and launch them. You know, not everything was on your desktop, and if you go back far enough, the desktop was far more rudimentary, and so people are used to doing that, and other people want to not have to go down through there, so they pin stuff that they use all the time to their start menu. And if you're like me, you fill up your desktop with 57 million billion zillion icons and move to them that way. So there's so many different ways to do the same thing in Windows, and that's totally true. Before the meeting, we were just discussing a brand new keystroke that looks like they've introduced to get to the volume controls. So you don't have to go into the system tray or notification center now. So things keep changing and sort of they stay the same. Some things are eventually phased out. And so that's part of what's going on. And part of it is because Windows was designed as a visual operating system. So we're going to talk about the taskbar. The taskbar is located at the bottom of the screen, and it goes from left to right, and then you run into the notifications area, which used to be the system tray, at the bottom right of the screen, all in a straight line. One bar runs into another horizontal bar, and it puts a number of things visually at the bottom of the screen, and you can see it. You can interact with it if you're a mouser. Use a mouse, and you can invoke it and do stuff with it. And it's visually friendly. For me and a lot of you, it doesn't really matter. So you may not want to do things the way you could. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay for those who can use it. And just setting up my sound here. And being a little bit recalcitrant.
Mute. Currently unmuted. Alt plus A
Okay, are
button.
you getting speech and video by any
Yep.
chance? Okay, phew. Because my share screen button never appeared in that dialogue. It was really weird. So I just whacked enter on the tab and hoped for the best. Excellent. So this is, right now we're just looking at my Zoom screen. Okay, mute, currently unmuted. This is all good. So let's talk about for just a minute ways to navigate between programs. You said you were going to talk about the taskbar. I really will. And it's all much of a muchness as we've come back to time and again. In Windows, there are many ways to skin a cat, which has nothing to do with cats, by the way. If you've ever heard that expression, it isn't really about cats. If any of you have been into gymnastics, skinning the cat is a thing you do up on a bar. I always found it really scary to do, but I digress. So there's many ways to move between applications. If you've got a bunch of running applications, you can hold down the Alt key and press Tab, which I think a lot of us do.
Post attendee Zoom Brave. Start page private search engine. 02062024 Windows. Blindness technology trainer. Screen sharing meeting controls. Mute. Currently unmuted.
We've circled through all of the open applications on my PC. There's a document open because I, in my very great smartness, built some notes to use here. And then I thought, well, if I've got to share my screen, it's going to make it really hard to read my notes. So I have them on a separate computer with a Braille display sitting off to my left, but I didn't do that until the last minute. So notes are open. There's a web page open. There's things open and running. And if you hold down Alt and press Tab, you move through those. And when you reach something you want, you can let go of the Alt key and go right into that application. So if I wanted to get to my notes, I could hold Alt and I'll Tab.
Post attendee Zoom Brave.
By the way, I never know what the post attendee thing is all about. I've never found any use for it. Maybe Ryan can enlighten me after the meeting.
Start page private search at 02062024 Windows overview with Liz Whitaker. Docs Word.
So there's my document. And I'll release the Alt.
02062024 Windows overview with Liz Whitaker. Docs Word. Edit.
Okay, and I'm now in my Word document. And I went past all of the other things that are open there. So that is a way to get to this running application. Hold Alt down and Tab, Tab, Tab until you get there. Okay. If you want to quickly move between two open applications, and I'll give you the application that I most recently used that in. I'm pursuing my master's degree. I hear that hand. Hang on. I'm pursuing my master's degree. And so I would take notes. I'd have a textbook open, or maybe I was doing research online for a paper I had to write. And I might have either my textbook open or a web page with research material, and then a notepad file open where I'm putting all my notes. I'm dropping these notes in with my citations. And I wanted to quickly toggle between, say, Notepad and Word, where my textbook was, or Notepad and the Kindle app on my PC. I didn't want to hold down Alt and go Tab, 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 Tab. All I had to do was open up, let's say, Notepad. I'd start there. And then I'd have my Word document open. I'd Alt Tab over to it once. And if you want to get back to the previously open application, in this instance, it would have been Notepad, all you have to do is hold Alt, tap Tab, and release them. And you'll go back to the previously open application. You don't have to make that full circle. So right now, if I do Alt Tab, I'll go back to our Zoom meeting together.
Mute. Currently unmuted. Alt plus A button.
Okay, Alt Tab, currently unmuted. I'm back in the meeting. If I press Alt Tab again.
02062024 Windows overview with Liz Whitaker. Docs Word.
Here's my Word document. That was great for taking notes and really fast. But what if I want to do it a different way? Let's go back to the Zoom meeting.
Mute. Currently
And I only do that because I'm easily confused. So I put myself in a known place. What if I want to do this a little bit differently, and I want to choose through a bunch of my open programs and maybe even launch a different program? And I don't remember what all is open, or I don't want to hold down Alt and say Tab, Tab, Tab. I can use the Windows taskbar. And it's very similar to the Windows 10 taskbar. So what I'm telling you now should work fine for those of you who still have Windows 10. Okay. This kind of lives where the start menu lives, but the taskbar, as I said, stretches across. So it's got a number of things in it. It's got widgets. I haven't played with those very much. I know that there's weather. A widget is a little window that you can look at, and it won't take you out of the stuff you're working on. And I believe you can move them around the edges of the screen visually. You might have your weather, your stock ticker, news, other stuff. There's a bunch of widgets you can get. I haven't messed with them. If you're running Microsoft Teams, you can put chat is sitting there. And what's important in our conversation is open or running applications. Okay. And then to the far right, you're moving from left to right along this taskbar. Remember, it's along the bottom of the screen. And you get to the right end of the taskbar, and there is the notification area, which is formerly called the system tray. Okay. So you start on your taskbar, you slide along to the right, you hit the system tray. So let's look at the taskbar for a minute. Okay. You get to the taskbar by pressing Windows T, Tango, taskbar, right? Windows T.
Windows T, taskbar, File Explorer 1 running window button.
So File Explorer, it's running, okay? So if there's an application that's running, JAWS will say running. Remember, you move along this by pressing left or right arrow. We're at the left end of that bar, so I'm going to press right arrow.
Google Chrome One Running Window button.
Okay, there's the web page we looked at as we went past it.
Microsoft Edge button.
Okay, Edge is not running. It just says Edge. It is pinned to my taskbar, just like you can pin stuff to the start menu. You can pin stuff to your taskbar. We'll come back to that in a second.
Outlook button. Word One Running Window button.
And all I'm doing is pressing right arrow. There's my Word document. Yes, it's not. It's another one that's open and running. It's my our notes for today.
Excel button. Global VPN client button. Microsoft Teams Work or School Classic Work or School button. Brave One Running Window button.
Another web page open.
Training Freedom Scientific button.
Not only is another page open, it's open in a different browser. How about that? There's a link to our training web page.
Homepage button.
And all I'm doing, homepage is to the Freedom Scientific homepage. All I'm doing is pressing right arrow. I could press left arrow.
Training Freedom. Brave One. Microsoft Global VPN Excel button.
Okay. So you can move back and forth across this taskbar. If you've got a running application, you can press enter on it and it will take you to it. If you have an application pinned here that you want to launch, yes, just like in the start menu or even on the desktop, you can pin an app up here. And if you want to launch it, all you have to do is press enter on it. So we're on Excel right now. If you wanted to launch it, you could do that. Now, I'm not going to take you through all the steps of how to pin this. I will show you something really quickly, though. And we looked at this. Liz showed you in the start menu. If I press the applications key or Shift F10, same thing as a right click with your mouse.
Applications. Items list box. Recent unavailable. Webinar topics. 1 of 10.
There's a bunch of recent stuff here.
St. Petersburg average air and water temperatures. 2 of 10. Budget with over. Sales report. Practice workbook. 5 of 10.
Okay, it's put me into my recents, which is not where I wanted to go. Let me press escape here.
Escape. Taskbar. Excel. Word. Excel button.
This is how it works in a demo, by the way. Let's try this one more time.
Applications. Items list box. Recent unavailable. Practice workbook. List box. Unpin from taskbar. 2.
Okay, I pressed up arrow instead of down arrow, and you hear unpin from taskbar, which is where I wanted to take us without running through all of my recently opened documents. And I stopped, and I'm going to read the current line so you can hear this.
Unpin from taskbar. 2 of 2.
So unpin from taskbar is one of the function things I can do here. Let's press up arrow.
Excel. 1 of 2.
And there's Excel, which will just open my application that's on the taskbar.
Escape. Taskbar.
So the reason I show you this is, let's say you want to unclutter your taskbar, but you do want to use it to find running applications and move into them because you don't want to hold Alt-Tab. Maybe from a dexterity standpoint, holding Alt down and then pressing Tab is an issue. Windows T, go to the taskbar, unpin all this clutter. Get rid of it. Unpin, unpin, unpin. You could reduce your taskbar down to where just about anything you see is just running applications, the stuff that's running. Okay. So there's some cool stuff you can do with that, and then you can launch the running apps. Let me come out of here.
Mute. Currently unmuted.
Can I ask
Alt
a
plus A
question?
button.
Okay, go ahead.
You called it, you went to the application menu with Shift F10. Elizabeth said she would, I believe, went to the context menu with Shift F10. Are they the same thing?
They are literally the same thing. It's the
So
application.
why did they change the name?
They didn't. Ron changed the name. It is the context menu, and it is the applications key. And my very deep apologies. So if you've got the applications key on your keyboard normally, if you've got the full keyboard, it's the space bar, then move to the right. It's the Alt key. To the right of that's the applications key, which invokes
Oh.
the context menu. It was my
Yeah.
mistake.
I don't have one of those, so I
That's
have
okay.
always used the Shift F10.
Shift F10. Yeah, and my apologies for
That's what confuses us when we hear different names and we,
I know you are right as rain.
okay, thanks.
You're
And just-
welcome.
And just one more real quick before we move on, Ron. Marcy, did you have
Sure.
a question? I saw your
No,
hand was raised.
for a while there, Jaws wasn't speaking, and I just wanted to ask if he had shared the sound, and then all of a sudden started speaking. So that's
Oh,
fine.
wow.
Okay,
well,
no,
thanks for
it's been
that.
fine here.
Yeah. Well, that's the vagaries of Zoom. See, if we could all be together in one place, it would be, you know.
Well,
like
it may have been that you weren't moving when you were talking about moving around, so who knows?
I
Okay.
but
try
that
not
was
to talk
just-
over it.
That's what I, and then all of a sudden when you said I'm gonna Alt Tab and you moved and it moved and
All of a sudden you heard it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my
And that's,
apologies.
yeah. No, not a problem. Thanks,
Great.
Ryan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I try not to talk over JAWS, and if you've heard me on any other webinars that I do, I'm guilty of, I'm going through and I want to tell you stuff and I jump over it on accident and I'll talk over it. So one of the other things that you can do if you want is on the taskbar, counting from left to right. So the leftmost item is 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5. You can launch any of the applications on the taskbar, not the running applications, okay, because those change. But if you arrange pin applications in the order you want them, you can launch them. You hold Windows down and you press one of the numbers on the number row. So I'll press Windows 6.
Windows 6, taskbar.
Do it for me. Maybe, there we go. I may not be able to concatenate them like that.
Escape.
It's one I don't use often. Let me try it again.
Please wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Book 1,
I jumped the
Excel,
gun. All right,
sheet.
so it did. It launched Excel, and I'm just impatient. I told you I jumped the gun. So the 6th from the left on my taskbar is Excel. And so when I want to launch Excel, when I get an Excel workbook open, so I can do a spreadsheet or whatever, I can press Windows, press and hold Windows, tap the numbers row 6, which is the numbers above the QWERTY keyboard. And that will launch, in this instance, Excel. So if you want to take the time and do some unpinning and pinning and arranging, you can launch these applications without going to the desktop, without using first letter navigation, without going to the start menu. If you can remember the number from 1 through, I guess, 0, that you've put these things onto the taskbar, you can set up your most frequently used applications, just hold Windows down and use a number to launch them. For some people, that's going to be super handy. For some people who say, I don't want to or can't memorize like that, it's not handy. But again, remember, this is Windows where there are many ways to accomplish the same thing, right? So if you put your taskbar together, you can use Windows and a number to launch them. Okay. So let's come out of there. I'm gonna take Excel down.
Alt F4, mute, currently on.
Okay.
We do have a quick question, Ron, if you don't
Sure.
mind.
No
Go ahead,
problem.
Peg. If you can unmute yourself, Peg.
Sorry, I thought I had.
Yeah.
I was just going across the taskbar items, and mine doesn't seem to indicate the number of each app.
It doesn't. You have to. That's why some people don't want to fool with it. It just starting at the, if you launch the taskbar, your cursor's at the left, focuses on the left end.
Oh, it is
So if-
always at the left end. Okay.
Yeah, it's good about starting at the left.
Okay, well,
and
that's
so
great.
that would be one, unless it's a running application sitting there. Okay.
Okay.
So you would
And-
pin them and you would just like Excel on -6, you know,
Oh, okay.
but
Okay,
it's not, it would be nice if it did give it some kind of a number, but it doesn't do that.
Yeah. And then at some point I ask about the system tray, but I don't think you're there
Oh,
yet.
that's my next topic. And you just
Oh.
gave me a segue. Peg wants to know about the system tray.
Well, actually, I use insert F11,
Yes, ma'am.
and yeah, because I'm not, and I know there's a Windows command too for it. Is it Windows E or Windows B? or
It is
something?
Windows B Bravo. So thank you.
Okay.
You're good.
Well, no,
Would you
I
like
just-
to do the rest of my presentation? That would be
No.
great. Oh, Ryan, I lost her.
That's okay. We do
She
have a
backed
couple
out on
other
me.
raised hands as well. I think probably
Okay.
related to the taskbar. So
No
before we
problem.
move
Before we move on to the system tray, we can certainly take.
Jaws told me there were 2 raised hands. I'm not seeing them though.
I scared him when I
It's
tried.
Diana, I put
Okay.
my hand up because I use the taskbar and the numbers all the time.
Do
I
you?
love it. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And I just learned something today because it used to be a lot harder to get the items up there in the
Okay.
way you wanted them. And now with this pinning and unpinning, I think when I haven't played with it, you should be able to get them in the order you want them. But because I have 2 computers, one's 10 and one's 11 of
Oh,
Windows.
yes. Yeah.
And so I put them in the same order on both
Uh-huh.
computers. And I can, and so it makes it really fast to get
Yeah,
to all my programs. I love the taskbar.
there you
But
go.
when I did Alt Tab,
Uh-huh.
usually I can only get to 2 items and it won't let me get to any other ones, but maybe it's because I was holding down the Alt and tab and pressing tab, and maybe I have to let them both up every time. I don't know.
It's the opposite. So if you do Alt Tab and release, Alt Tab and release, you're just going to step back and forth between 2 items.
Okay.
Hold Alt down and don't release it, and just tab,
Okay.
tab, to press tab until you get to the one you want. I describe it as being inside of a Coke can universe, right? You just go in circles, round and round and round.
Yeah.
So you hold Alt down and don't let it go until you reach the spot that you want, and then let Alt go.
For sure. Okay.
But
Perfect.
if you're a taskbar guru, you've got that licked anyways, right?
Oh yeah.
It'll get
I
you there.
guess.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Like,
That's a great
yeah.
story. Thank you.
So
Okay.
I don't see any other hands raised, so I think we can carry on.
All right. As Peg said, we're going to move to the system tray. Now, I see it's 51 after. Have we got a hard stop at 2, or can we roll a little bit?
Probably 11 is our cutoff. 11.
2 o'clock my
11,
time.
12, 1, 2.
All right.
That's
So
right.
let's do this. That's all right. Yeah, I'm on Eastern time. My
Mhm.
apologies. Okay. Well, let's do it. So to the right of the taskbar, remember I said this is along the bottom of the screen. If you go along the taskbar and go, to the right of that visually is the notification center, which in Windows 10 was the system tray. And it's interesting, when I use the system tray, okay, there's 2 ways to get there. Now, Windows B Bravo, which I'm going to do.
Windows N.
Oops, I just did N. Sorry.
Notifications. Escape.
That's called transposition of fingers, right? Let's get out of notifications. It did take us into notifications, but it's not the way I want us to. So Windows B. Oh, that's embarrassing. Here we go.
Windows B. Taskbar. Show hidden icons button.
So it's the taskbar, but it's the notifications end of it. Show hidden icons, in case I want a bunch of other stuff to show up, which I normally do. And you left and right arrow through this. I'll press right arrow.
OneDrive Vespero. Incorporated up-to-date button. 1 of 1.
And this is just a list of running applications, stuff I can affect, notifications, if you will. You know that my OneDrive is up to date.
Privacy apps using your location. Windows Web Experience Pack. Widgets provide local weather, news, and more apps using your microphone. Zoom meetings button.
Okay, so my privacy's up. You heard all of that, and it even included Zoom meeting.
Network Spectrum Setup C3X Internet Access button. Volume Headphones Voice Pro USB headset. 20% button.
And all I'm doing is pressing right arrow in this instance. I could press left arrow.
Power battery status. Fully charged 100% button.
And we can press enter on these to invoke them. We can
Clock 1:53 p.m. 2/6.
So we can interact with them. We can do stuff with them. For a lot of people, the easier way to deal with this is to press, and it was already mentioned by Ms. Peg, insert F11. So let's do that. Insert F11.
Select a system tray icon dialog. List box. Show hidden icons. 1 of 9.
It sounds strangely familiar. Now we're in a vertical menu, and I'll press down arrow instead of right arrow.
OneDrive Vespero. Incorporated up to date. 2.
So all JAWS has done is it's grabbed that stuff from the notifications area, the system tray, and it's put them into a vertical menu. But there's more.
Privacy apps using your
Let's go
Network Spectrum
down.
setup. Volume Headphones Voice Pro USB headset. 20%. 5 of 9.
Let's go to volume. Normally in the notifications area, people will interact with it with their mouse, and you can right click on it or left click on it. If you press insert F11, arrow down to what you want. In this case, I'm on the volume, and I press tab.
Right single click button. Alt+R.
We've got provisions to do the equivalent of a right single click button, which gets us some settings, or I'll press tab again.
Left single click button.
There's left
Alt+L.
single click button. You notice there's some hotkeys for that as well. Let's go back to right single click button. I'll shift tab,
Right single click button. Alt+R.
and I can press enter here.
Enter. Troubleshoot sound problems. 1 of 3. T.
And a menu opens. It isn't really given a name. On my Braille display, it says MNU for menu. But we are in a menu, and it's basically the context menu. for volume settings. I can troubleshoot sound problems if I press down arrow,
Open volume mixer. 2 of 3.
down
O.
arrow again,
Sound settings. 3 of 3.
and
S.
we wrap around.
Troubleshoot sound problems. 1 of 3. T.
Still in a Coke can universe, right? I'm not endorsing Coke, just the shape of the can. So that is what would happen if I were to right click. I should be able to use the application menu if you want to do Windows B to get to the notifications area. And again, left and right arrow around there. Or you can press Insert F11 and get to the same list of stuff, but it's in a vertical menu and you can tab to the right click button. I'm going to press Escape here.
Escape. Leaving menus. Clock 1:55. Escape.
Now, a tip for you. Some of this stuff you can get to without having to go into this menu in either way. Battery status. I have a laptop.
Clock 1:56 p.m.
Thank you.
Mute. Currently.
We are almost out of time. I have a laptop. I'm checking my battery because I use it on the go. And if you don't want to go into the notification area with either Command Windows B or Insert F11, you can press Insert Shift B, bravo. Insert Shift B like battery. And JAWS will tell you your current battery status.
AC connected. Battery level. High. Battery 100%. Network spectrum setup C3X. Internet access.
And you get your internet info. The other one that we were just discussing before the meeting, because at least to me it's a new command, is Control Shift V. Control Shift V like volume. V Victor will take you into a dialog where you can change your system volume and work with some other stuff. And I prefer that very much to going into the notifications area, finding my volume, doing a right mouse click, selecting the volume mixer. It's much quicker. So there's a couple of quick tips that that you can do. So we're almost done. Is there any questions so far? No? Am I still there?
Yeah,
Did I
not
drop-
seeing any hands raised. So
That was scary. I've had Zoom drop out from under me and I'm talking away and there's nobody hearing me. So no hands.
nope.
Okay. Well, that completes everything for today. We almost timed it perfectly. That's pretty great. It's been really great to be here, to be able to backstop and to spend some time with you. Ryan, it's great to talk to you after such a long time.
Mm-hmm. No,
And,
we're really glad you and Elizabeth could make it out, and looking forward to next week's part 2.
Absolutely. Well, I'll wish you guys a good morning. For me, it's afternoon. I'm going to go eat lunch real fast and
Well,
press
thank
on
you
with
very
the day.
much.
Thanks for having us, you guys.
Great. Yeah.
Much appreciated, Ron. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll touch base before next week.
Sounds great. Take care,
All right,
everybody.
you too.
Thank you. See you
Thanks,
next
Ron.
week.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Alt Q. Leave meeting button.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Well, thank you, Ryan. That was
Thank
pretty
you.
good.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's really good, actually.
Not
Yeah.
to remember all this.
Well, they will be sending us let me just stop the recording. Hang on a second here.
Okay.